There were many experiments, many trials where in retrospect one would be perfectly justified to say that these were acceptable and ethical under the conditions and values of the time. And I think anyone looking at that would be a fair way of looking at them. However, there were incidences, individual cases, where ethics standards, also those as they were understood at the time, were breached, where the scientific methodology was flawed, where the scientists were entering into areas, dangerous areas, where they were taking unnecessary risks, ultimately harmed servicemen. As far as the sort of actual experience of individual servicemen is concerned, I think the person who would really come to mind is Kenneth Earl. He was a young lad, he was an actor at the time, and he had been doing service in the British Army and had read a note asking for volunteers for the common cold. And he had volunteered for this particular trial, and he was absolutely sure that that nothing would ever been done by the government at the time. He had a lot of trust in his government, who had just sort of, fought a major war, and in his mind it was inconceivable that he and his fellow servicemen would ever be put in harm's way. So when he went to Porton in May 1953, 2 days before Madison died, he went into that gas chamber. He thought this was just a trial for a common cold. And again, as I said, and when I talked to him, for him it was totally inconceivable that there was anything dangerous, any danger, any risks in which he would be placed. And he was exposed to the nerve agent. And no one ever told him that. He was not informed, he never gave consent. And as he said many times, if he would have known that he would be exposed to weapons of mass destruction, as he called it, he would never have agreed, never have consented to this type of experiment. And years later, 50 years later, and I think that's something one needs to understand, he was still suffering, not only physically, but also mentally, actually having realized that he had been misled by his own government. And that's why he took on the task to bring these issues into a kind of public realm and fight for justice for the veterans. And they ultimately succeeded, that the government accepted a degree of responsibility and issued a formal apology in Parliament in 2008.